Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong. I'm an entrepreneur, business strategist, real estate investor, speaker, also best-selling author, and every single day I help others unlock potentials and guide them to succeed. Today on the show, we have another fascinating guest on the show. We interview celebrities, entrepreneurs, business CEOs, athletes, and artists to find out their path to success, how they're able to overcome challenges, adversity, and of course, their keys to success. And today's guest is somebody who's been able to help lots of companies, individuals, entrepreneurs, businesses scale, grow, control, and still love their life and succeed in business. And that's something that's really difficult because sometimes they go, do I do business? Do I do work? Or do I love life? And they always seem to kind of pick one or the other. He has over 30 plus years of experience in entrepreneurship, in business. He has this unique way of applying strategic and also tactical solutions to problems that's out there. He helps them with long-term implementation of systems so it's scalable and also long-lasting results too. And that's very, very important because it has to be scalable, it has to be systemized, and it has to be sustainable as well. So he's very, very good at that. He helps individuals embrace that time compression and have those results and scalability with their companies and their life as well. I've had the privilege of sharing a virtual stage with him, and it was absolutely amazing. He added so much value. He was so much great energy, and I just can't wait to have him on. So please welcome speaker, podcast host, coach, best-selling author of the book Escape the Owner Prison, CEO of Sharpen the Spear Coaching, Mr. Richard Walsh.
Hey, Fong, how you doing? Great to be here.
Hey, thanks for being here. Always a joy seeing you. And I can't wait to dive into your experiences, your tips, your golden nuggets, because you are a person who's achieved so much and helped so many people achieve their goals and their dreams. So very, very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited because it's a good thing. I love what I do. So helping businesses, that's an amazing thing. We want to create that freedom, profit, and impact that everyone starts their business to have,
Mhm.
right? We all get in it for the same thing, but most of
Exactly.
us never achieve it. We get out of balance pretty fast.
Well, for somebody like yourself who's been able to help so many people succeed, you have gone through a uh, very interesting life. You've achieved so many different things. You've been involved with so many different things, from boxing to being involved with the military and also Marines, and then also in business. What was that path like? How did you get to who you are now? How did you gain all that experience?
It's interesting because I don't know if anyone actually sets their path. Like, hey, I know all the steps for the next 25 years, and I'm going to do it this way. I don't know if that's reality. If anyone, maybe someone's done that, they could let us know. But what I find is you start with the one thing, right? So, me, I was a 17-year-old just out of high school. I'm like, I'm going to go in the Marine Corps because college wasn't going to be for me and everything else. I've always wanted to go in. And so I did that. And that was just the beginning because I love to be challenged. I love to be pushed. I wanted to go do something very, very difficult and serve and all that. So I did that, and that was great. And it definitely pushed me and taught me a lot of great stuff and really kind of set the path for where I was going. Because coming out of there, I wanted to, I had to work. So I just started the simple job of swinging a pickaxe, digging trench for $5 an hour, and all that. Got a side gig, made $1,000 on the side gig, just shoveling granite for someone for a day, and that was really exciting for me because I said, wait, I did this yesterday for $50. Today I made 1,000. I think I know my future. So that became my whole entrepreneurial, start. So I started a landscaping business that turned into a custom water feature business. So I went into a niche with that, scaled that, grew up one of the best in the country. I started doing steel sculpture to add to my water features and became internationally recognized in that, doing world-class exhibits and stuff. And so all of that in the beginning was just one thing led to another. But I think, Fong, I just saw opportunity on top of like I wanted to do something else. Okay, so like I wanted to weld, so I taught myself how to weld. Like I'm not good at formal education, if you haven't noticed, but I just teach myself and I figure it out. And the next thing you know, I'm doing these incredible things. But then 08, 09 hit, so we had the big financial crunch, right? And that really took my business out. Well, I really took my business out. Okay, because there's a lot of things I didn't do in my business. I'm really good at being out front, being the guy, making all this incredible stuff, getting things done, right? Winning awards, being on committees, doing all that. But someone's got to watch the house. Okay. So that was not me. I wasn't interested in that stuff. I was having too much fun making a ton of money and being out front. So that economic restriction just crushed my business. So I ended up losing my business, my house, everything. Had to relocate. I had a wife and 6 small children, 4 years old and younger at the time. So that was a challenge. So not a challenge I actually wanted like the other ones, but I knew I had to overcome that. So it's not like it knocked me out. It was hard. It was really, really difficult because you got to now solve some real problems. Like where are you going to go? What are you going to do? And I got that figured out. It took a little bit of time. And we got things figured out. But at the same time, I didn't really know what I was going to do. So I'm thinking, what's next? I wasn't going to do what I did. Okay. I sold everything, every welder. And I'll tell you, Fong, to this day, that was 08, 09. I haven't built a water feature or welded a piece of metal. Okay. And all this time, I'm very all or nothing. So I ended up started training as a fitness trainer because I had been one since the early 90s. Love fitness and everything else. Of course, I box and taekwondo and all that stuff. So I started training, just started doing something at Anytime Fitness. So they're all over the place, right? So they really didn't have a program. I started it there, did that. I ended up being trainer of the year, for so I'm like, oh, but as an entrepreneur, you know what that means, right? Go open a gym. Let's go open a gym. Okay. I don't need to work for these people. It's like $1,000 back, 20 years ago, 30 some years ago. So I opened a gym, scaled that, but I started to build that the right way this time. Like I understood I connected the dots for why I truly failed in the beginning, the first 20 years. And started hiring trainers, letting them do the work. I designed programs and everything else. And then I had the freedom to go home when I wanted to go home. My wife needed me. I could get there. We homeschooled all our kids. So it was great to be around. I could pop in and out. I was never going to be a stay-at-home dad. That's never in the cards, but I'd like to be able to pop in and out when they need me, right? And just see them and spend that time. So that led also into a construction business. I did roofing, siding, windows, scaled that was really great. And at the same time, people started asking me, well, how'd you go from all that, nothing back to, and I'm like, well, I started mentoring, right? So I started helping people, which of course, again, back to the entrepreneur mindset, right? Okay, mentoring, that's like free advice. Coaching, coaches get paid. I think I'll do a coaching business. So I wrote Escape the Owner Prison, the contract's new way to scale, regain control, and fast track growth while loving life. That became a bestseller. I built an academy around it, started to scale, went through a few iterations, and here we are with Sharpen the Spirit Coaching. And I'm helping
That is
business.
absolutely incredible. So many questions that sparked my brain when you're saying all that kind of stuff. First of all, you have so much stuff. How
Yeah.
did you juggle all those things? Because was it you did one thing, stop, one thing, stop, one thing, stop, or was there a period of time where things just kind of overlapped each other?
No, they were pretty much start and stop. Like some things I combined
Mhm.
because they worked with each other, right? So I always have the belief that if I'm doing something, I'm really focused, right? So I'm not a multitasker. Like that is not in the cards for me. Okay. But I am awesome at one thing. If I focus and I'll do it, I take it all the way. Right. So there's no stopping me. So I kind of live by that. I didn't know that early on. Like that's the thing. It's just how I operated. But then people started telling me you need to do more and multitask. I'm like, but then I do everything poorly, or I do everything halfway. I am committed. You know the saying, there's many starters, very few finishers.
Mhm.
Well, I'm a finisher.
And
Okay.
you start
Yeah.
and you finish.
Yeah, I do. I do. I finish when I start. you know.
Was it difficult for you to say, okay, this is the end of this chapter, and then you go to the next one, and then end of this chapter? Because lots of people are so attached to certain businesses they start, and they're like, no, this is what I want to keep, and therefore they keep what they started, and they start something else, and they probably get somebody else to watch over it and all that kind of stuff. Or like for you, was that difficult to let things go?
It wasn't because when I grew up, we moved a lot, right? So a lot of relocate, a lot, like 30 times before I got to high school, right? So I didn't really get attached to things.
Hmm.
So I look back like, well, how am I not? And I get it. Like, I love that people will build businesses and multiple businesses. Now I teach them how to systemize, do all that so they can still own it, but not operate it.
Mhm.
That is a great way to go. Right. I didn't do that in the beginning. And then now I do that kind of stuff. Right. But I do like to let go because I want to focus on the new thing. So something has to be really, really dialed in for me to let go. And I still have to have an interest in it.
Mhm.
Because like if I don't like truly love something, it can become an income generator, which is okay, but it really needs to be run independent of me, independent of me. Because if I don't like something, I just don't do it. It's just kind of that's entrepreneurial freedom. I don't like that. I'm not going to do that. Wait, you're trying to tell me what to do? Yeah, that doesn't work either. So
Going back to that moment in your life where everything went downhill, you had to start all over. You sold everything. How did you like bring yourself up back up? Because those moments is what really defines your entire path. If you didn't take that one step, if you did not think that certain way, if you did not meet that certain person, then you would not have went that way. So what was it that made you go, okay, it's time. No more sobbing, no more crying over this, no more like kind of hunched over. This is the moment. Here we go.
so here's the moment. I can tell you exactly when it was. So in kind of early mid, yeah, early '09, I wake up one morning, I'm thinking about my kids. So I got these 6 little kids, they're like 4 years and younger. And when I come home at the end of the day, they love it. They run you, they jump on you, right? They're kids. They want to see their dad. And then one day I was leaving in my truck, and one of my sons is chasing me down the driveway crying because I'm leaving. And I'm looking at him out of the rearview mirror. And as he gets smaller, because I got to go to my business, I got work to do. That I realized laying there in bed, I'm like, you know what? If I stay on this path where business is first, now everything is collapsing around me, right? I get it. Like I know there's going to be an end here. When exactly the 6 months, 8 months, I don't know. It's going to be. I'm like, we're limping pretty bad. So I'm like, man, these kids, they're going to grow up and they're going to have failed marriages, broken relationships. They might be good at business, but everything else in their life is going to be a mess because of what they saw me do. More is caught than taught with kids. So I can tell them all the right things, but the default is going to be what dad did. No matter what I push through, I sacrificed this and this maybe when I shouldn't have. Right. And this is all that matters is me being number one. And I got out of bed, dressed, went in the office, told my office manager, we're done today. Shut it down, went to my yard, my construction yard, told my guys, we're wrapping everything up this week. Like we're finished. And they've been with me over 10 years. Same crew, awesome, best guys were like family. And they're like, what? I'm like, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do this anymore. And they literally had a bonfire in the backyard and burned all my uniforms and everything else. I'm like, I have video, like just brand new. So I was just throwing it on the fire. I'm like, because I also realized, Fong, that my identity was completely wrapped up in the business. So I was my business. My business was me, right? Terrible thing to have happen to you. And most people suffer from that, especially men, right?
Mhm.
What's the first thing we ask them when we meet them? What do you do?
Right.
Right. It's just identity. And it's, wow, I was like, I can't ever do this again. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm never going to do this. So I had that great epiphany and it was a life changer. So relocated, went from the city to the farm kind of thing out in the country. And I don't get depressed. Like I don't have that ability either, like for whatever reason, I'm like this eternal optimist. So I'm like, I'll just figure it out. I'll just figure it out. I'll just keep going. I mean, they teach us that in the Marine Corps. I mean, you're not done till you're dead.
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, so you got, if you can take a breath, you're in the fight. So I'm like, we'll just keep going. We'll figure it out. As long as I'm not standing still, I'll be fine. I got to keep moving. So that's really what that was the big catalyst that moved me to the next level, to the next season, if you will.
Mhm. Now, it sounds like you didn't have a plan in place yet. You're
No.
gonna just go and see what happens. So did you give yourself a timeline? Kind of go, okay, by this time this has to happen. By this time this has to happen. Because if it doesn't happen, then I may have made the wrong decision.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to admit I made a wrong decision. What are you talking about? I'm just, I didn't have like here by, January of 20, whatever it was, 20, 2010, I'm going to do, I didn't do that, but I just know I only operate under pressure.
Right.
See, I don't know any other way to operate. Like if you tell me you need something from me, like sculptures, like people commission for a sculpture, I say, well, when would you like it done? I say, oh, whenever. I go, oh, yeah, that time doesn't work for me because the last part of that, whenever is never.
Right.
The last, and I don't, it'll be never because I only work under pressure. You tell me tomorrow, I'll have it done. You tell me next week, give me a date, I'll get it done. So, but with this, it's this big move the family, get this, do this, figure out what you can do. I didn't put a date on it. I just did it every day
Mhm.
until I figured it out. So I don't have like the perfect explanation because some people can work that way. I'm structured, but I'm not like, it's a lot of it's in my head and I'm really dealing with myself,
Mhm.
and pushing through with that stuff. So yeah, so it just started coming together,
Mhm.
then when I started training people, I'm like, okay, well, I'll be the best trainer. I'll build this whole thing up and poof, next thing, like I said, trainer of the year. And then, oh, I'll do a gym. So I didn't know that was going to happen.
Mhm.
I just knew I wanted to do, had to do something. So I just started taking the steps.
Mhm. So one thing I gathered from your past here is that your military Marine background has
Mhm.
given you that mindset of you go until you can't go. You
Right.
figure it out. You act under pressure. You succeed under pressure and all that kind of stuff. Now, there's lots of people now who jumps into entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
and it seems that the generations coming on are less likely to be able to take pressure. They're
Mhm.
very easily put down. They're very easily saying, "Oh, it's too hard." What do you recommend the next generation of entrepreneurs to kind of embrace or work on or think about in order for them to succeed? Whereas you went through your kind of shift through Marines and all that kind of stuff to get you that mindset.
Mhm. I think what they need to do, and I try to challenge everybody I talk to, they have to do hard things. I don't care what it is. It can be physical. You have to go and really push yourself to a point that you think you can't make it. Okay. And you'll make it. If you're gonna run a marathon, you can run a marathon. You're not gonna die. Okay. Like go run it and do it, walk it, run it, whatever. Complete the 20, however many miles. Okay. Get that done. Do a hard thing. Train for it, do it, and go, oh, I did that. Okay. And at the same time you're doing hard things, I always recommend this: get books of people who have done super hard things. Ernest Shackleton, trapped on the Arctic ice for 2 years, brings 28 guys all the way back home alive, like 2 years, eating penguins and whatever, right? Like when you're crying about a little bit of work you have to do, think about those guys, right? Think about guys who have, touching the void. I mean, there's all these stories of guys who overcome unbelievable suffering, right? Challenge, everything else. Just read those so that you have a reference point when you think you're doing something hard. Because, like, if you're in America, like, there ain't nothing hard. Okay. I'm just telling you, like, we have all first world problems. Like, we get, it's what you think is hard is nothing people would kill for to be able to have that problem, right? So, we want to also understand that every problem is an opportunity, right? If you face problems as opportunities, that's going to change your mindset. And I think the last thing really is to understand we all have to be developed. So today, when you talk about today's generation or young people or even millennial, whatever it is, and again, every generation has their issues, right? The last generation is talking smack about my generation. I talk smack about yours. What I mean? It's a big snowball that keeps going since the beginning of time. The only great people were the first people, I guess, according to them. But if you have to be developed. You can't. Everyone now wants to be discovered, not developed. They just prove, oh, I'm somebody. I'm an influencer. I'm this. Like it doesn't work that way. You know the old saying, every overnight success only took 10 years.
Exactly.
Like look at anybody. Like if you think no matter how good they are or whatever, look at and go really get into their story. You'll see, I can talk now about all this stuff because I put 35 years in. Okay. It's been 35 years of doing stuff. Oh, it seems so easy. Well, it's never easy. It's always work.
Mhm.
So that'd be the biggest encouragement I could give those couple of things.
Mhm. What would you say is some of the biggest advantages that people now have to start in entrepreneurship compared to when you started?
Oh, sure, man. Just one word, the internet. Oh my gosh. Like we had nothing. Like I
Mhm.
couldn't get a coach. There were coaches, but you had to make like $10 million a year and they work with you. I was like, those high level CEO, executive level stuff, and they were random, right? So now you have so much technology at your fingertips to get your business launched for virtually no cost.
Mhm.
We used to have to print flyers. It was $3,000 to print some flyers. I'm like, people don't understand like what it was back then. Now you got Fiverr, you got Upwork, you got the whole world is working for you.
Mhm.
Like, and it's all economical and they're creative and they have the tools. You can do it very quickly.
Mhm.
So that's what I mean. When I look at people and they're complaining about the work, I'm like, wow, You have no idea what it used to take, and I love that it doesn't take all that because I want people to be into entrepreneurship. So there's never been a better time in history to have the lowest barrier to entry than right now.
Right.
It's amazing.
No, everything that has benefits has its own issues as well. And yes, we have access to so much information, we have access to so much knowledge, yet it's so much. And therefore people get bombarded. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Like how do you go with this advice over that advice? How do you know that this person's not a scam, whereas that person is legit? How do you weed through all that information? And secondly, you talked about speed and how things can happen fast. There's people going, well, I can't keep up with the speed. If I'm not as fast as the next person, there's no way I can compete. So how do you navigate that for people?
So the first thing I tell them, especially in the startup situation, is you need to understand the things you don't need resources like all this money and all this and all this. You need resourcefulness. You need to know how to get things done with nothing. Okay. The second thing is understand how little you truly need to get started. The problem is all they're doing is consuming information. They're trying to be perfect. They're trying to get all the right business plan, all the stuff that they actually don't even need. I tell them, you know what you need? Sell something. Go have someone put money in your hand for whatever you want to do, because everything else doesn't matter. See, that's proof of concept. Someone paid me who's not my friend or family. Friends and family don't count. Don't go to them for anything. Well, unless they want to loan you money. But don't ask them, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? Because they can never give you an objective opinion. They know you. Jesus couldn't do anything in his hometown. Okay, because family and friends. He had to go to another town to heal people, right? So you have to keep things in perspective, but get out and make that happen. Don't overconsume. Okay, don't overcome. Go, what do I need? What's the minimum I need? Laser focus on that. Okay, let me go get that done. Okay, because there's plenty of people who do it. Well, like I said, you get on a Fiverr, you get an Upwork, great. You just find the person. I'll give you a real world example just last week. So I'm trying to set up Workspace in Gmail, right? A new account. I'm like, wow, I know I've done this before, but I couldn't figure it out. 2.5 hours, Fong. Okay. And I'm like, everything's wrecked. I wrecked everything. The thing's broken. I don't know. I'm like, what am I doing? Wait a minute. I get on Fiverr. I find a guy, $20, fixes it in an hour, fix the whole thing. I'm like, I have to go I wasn't coaching myself properly. Because anyone else I'll tell, just go there. Do not spend a minute on this stuff, right? $20, the guy fixed the whole thing and it was wrecked. Like we had to delete it, do all this, and he fixed it, right? So I wasn't even thinking right then, So remember that every battle plan never survives the first shot. So you want imperfect action. Just begin. That's how you overcome. You won't get overwhelmed because I call it ignorance on fire, right? You run in, you're on fire, you're excited to do this. Well, start making it happen. If you got to build a prototype or if you have a service, get out there and get people to pay for it. Get it, get moving, and then get the feedback. It's the feedback you need. Nothing else. It's not more tech. It's not a CRM. It's not any of that. So you need like feedback on whatever you're beginning. Is this viable?
Right.
Do people actually want this? Or I'm living a fantasy world, which we often do, right? We all think our idea is the greatest thing ever until we pressure test it. And then it just blows up in our face, right? And then we can move on. But the sooner it blows up, the sooner you can move on. Don't waste any more time or money, see? Because you're being resourceful, you're getting it, and you're getting real world data back on it. So that's probably where I'd put it in the beginning.
You mentioned about testing it, getting it sold, getting money in your hands to make sure that it's viable, the product or the service. At what point do you go, okay, I need to probably scrap the idea because it's not, the idea is probably not good. Or maybe I need to tweak this, maybe I need to tweak that, and then try it again. How far do you go along with an idea before you go, okay, I need to change directions?
So let's say people aren't buying it. Okay. Here's what entrepreneurs don't do. Well, why not? What's wrong with it? They don't get negative feedback. You need to go out 100% only looking for negative feedback. You don't have to stroke my ego. I don't need that. It's, oh, yeah, yeah, it's really good, dude. And they're going, well, I wouldn't buy that thing for $3. You know what I mean? So you got to tell me what's wrong with this. Start with that.
Mhm.
Because negative feedback you can learn from rapidly. You can fix it. And that's how you're going to find out. It might be so much negative feedback, you need to throw that thing away. You got to start over, right? And I get grit. I'm a living testament for perseverance and going through and I'm too dumb to quit kind of thing, and all that stuff. So you need to have that element. But if you're asking the right questions, like what's wrong with this, not what's great about this. So revert, just flip it. Go out and tell me what's wrong with this. And people will, man, if you give them permission, oh, they'll tear that thing up into pieces,
They'll
right?
dump it
But
on
but if you don't, they're not gonna because they're nice people,
you. Mhm.
right? So just think about, just kind of reverse the way you think, so you and toughen up. It's gonna hurt. Okay, that's gonna sting a little bit. They're gonna punch you in the face
Mhm.
with the negative stuff, but that's the only way you can get good and make your product or service actually viable.
Mhm. No, it's that toughen up aspect that people really, really struggle with. For you, you've had the background, you fought, you've competed, you put yourself in very difficult situations. How does one train for that type of mindset if they didn't have all that to build on? How do they start where they're now?
You have to start little. I mean, you have to start with small thing. Don't go out and like when I started boxing, I got out of the Marine Corps and I was a assistant manager of this big college bar, and our head doorman, his name was Crazy Dave. Dave actually, but we named him Crazy Dave so you can get kind of an idea. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 240, 10% body fat, plays with 350 on the bench, and he's the South London kickboxing champion. And he boxed. I'm like, hey, I want to box. So the first day I get in, go to the gym with him. He goes, oh, come on to the gym. Get in the ring with him. Bell rings. I start throwing. Can't lay a glove on him. Okay, he's just slipping. I'm chasing him around the ring, and he just pop through a jab, broke my nose, bleeding everywhere. I'm like, oh, I'm okay. Start chasing him. Still can't lay a glove on him. Second shot, pop, throws a left hook, falling my mouthpiece out of my mouth, out of the ring, and across the gym. Some little kid picked it up and ran back and gave it to me, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, so we finished the second round. That was it. I couldn't shoot for 3 days. My nose is broken. I got two black eyes. And I come back to work that night, and the general manager's like, what happened to you? I go, oh, I was sparring with Dave. Well, you can't do that. I said, well, I'm going back tomorrow. What are you talking about? I'm going back tomorrow. I'm going to do this, right? I'm a little nutty. Okay. So the whole point of that is start smaller. Don't go in and get destroyed. Okay. So you can do little things that challenge you and start to stack small successes
Mhm.
of challenge, right? Like do something hard, like it's like, the old saying, you can't go to the gym once a month and get fit. Okay. There's consistency involved with this too,
Mhm.
but consistency in doing incredibly hard things every day is unreasonable,
Mhm.
right? It's unrealistic. So just, you got to kind of tether what it is and figure out what's going to work for you.
You should have asked that kid that picked up your mouth guard to punch you a few times first.
I deserved it, right? And he left all the hair and everything on the mouthpiece, so I had that.
You mentioned a while ago about the importance of reading books or reading stuff that from incredible people. How did you get to the point where you go, you know what? I need to get my story out there. I need to help people. I'm going to write my book. Share with us that journey.
Yeah. So again, people started asking me how I did things. Right. I'm doing business and things, and I always liked to write. I wrote a little story. I was right when I was a kid. That was my escape. So my creative outlet when I was a kid was writing. So I just wrote. I mean, it doesn't mean I was good at it. I just mean I wrote. There's people who play music and they're terrible at it, or they sing and they're terrible at it, right? So I wrote and it was okay. It was pretty creative. So I'm like, well, I should do a book. Actually, it's because, you know what, Fong? I saw a stat that said 82% of Americans want to write a book, only 2% do. I'm like, those are my kind of numbers. I'm going to be in that 2%. So I'm like, okay, I've got the story. I've done all this. Now I've done that. Like, and I want to help people. So I wrote the book. I weave my story in it with all foundational things about being a contractor, service business, everything else, and gave them a path. Kind of roll like, oh, this is really great. So I knocked it out quickly. Maybe not super fast, but it was like 3 weeks. I wrote the book. I
Oh,
had an
wow.
editor. I hired an editor, and a great editor. anyone knows or doesn't know, they don't like write the book for you. Some
Right.
people think editor like writes the book. She literally like, here, put a comma over here. She's like, I really like commas. And she, so she put a comma and she would move one word from like this end of the sentence to somewhere in, and like, it was unbelievable. Like it made it perfect, like readable. So I was so excited. I printed all her corrections. Like I printed the manuscript with the red in there just to go, I did pretty good, like for a guy who could, I had to repeat English a couple of times in high school, So it was, I'm like, this is really great. And then I got it. Then the hardest part, really on that journey is the title and the subtitle. Worst part of the whole journey.
Yep.
I had 27 working titles. Okay, I created that. End up going with the 28th. Because I'm like, they're not hitting. I was at a track meet with a friend of mine who owns a business, manufacturing business really well. Our kids are running. And I'm talking, I go, Troy, I think I got a title. Tell me what you think. And I go, Escape the Owner Prison. And he looked at me and he goes, that resonates. That's good. Boom, done. That was the title of the book. And then I'm trying to figure out the subtitle. I'm kind of hacking at that. And my editor goes, well, just say it this way. The contract's a new way to scale, regain freedom and fast track growth all of life. And I'm like, oh, that's perfect. Again, great editor. Right. Just moved a couple of my words around in my big old mess I had there, and everything was good. So then we launched it. It became a bestseller. Again, I use it for building authority, right? Built an academy around and a program, got into detail in the book because books can only give you so much, right? They're a great place to start. You can always get the nuggets out of there, right, and do it. But when you want to really apply something you haven't done, I think a book is kind of a guide, but you need that hands-on, the coach, someone who's really going to walk you through and push you and hold you accountable. Because most people will read the book, like you were saying earlier, they're going to consume this. It's going to go back on the shelf. Man, that's a great book. And there it sits. Like, well, you got to do something with it. You got to take that imperfect action. I mean, I'm glad I wrote it and I'm glad you like it, but are you doing something about it? So that was kind of the journey. And it was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole process. Again, a hard thing. Now I'm in the 2%. How cool is that?
I think that story resonates with a lot of people because a lot of people goes, you know what? I don't have the English background. I don't have great diction and all that kind of stuff, and therefore they stop writing that book or they don't even consider it. However, for something like yourself, you just take the action, and then you realize from your editor, hey, it's not as bad as I thought.
Right.
And after a while, it's all done. So I usually when I work with my clients, first thing I tell them is, you know what? If you write how you speak and you speak properly, I'm pretty sure you could get that book out with no time. So very, very relevant there. Now, you work with a lot of different people, a lot of different businesses, and one thing that most businesses want is to really scale their business, reach a higher level. What do you find is some of the most challenging things that they see in scaling?
Well, first, they're always scaling too early because they're not prepared to scale.
Mhm.
So most of them fail because they overscale. They go out and they open a location and they're doing this and they're trying to grab more market share. Meanwhile, nothing is systemized in their business. The business can't run itself. They don't have processes. Nothing is duplicatable. They have really good people. They got lucky or whatever. They trained them and they had these really good people and they try to scale really good people. You can't scale really good people. Really good people work in a lane. They do really well at what they do, but they can't do it in 5 places.
Right.
So you have to build systems that you put people into, not put systems in, over people. Right. So they haven't created all of that. Because I'll ask them, I said, well, can you leave for a month from your business and not check in? Oh, no way. All right, you aren't ready to scale. There's no way you can scale. Right. The place is going to be burnt down. Right. Everyone's going to leave. They're going to whatever. Right. So you really have to understand where you're at to scale comfortably. And let's air quote comfortably, because it's scaling. Okay. It's never like I'm going to sit on my hammock and talk about scaling. I'm talking that like comfortably means you're not going to go into bankruptcy. Okay. You're going to understand the path because you've done it in one location or even 2, right? Like a franchise, you can't franchise till you have 2 or 3, right? Because it's not duplicatable yet. So if you have 1, that's amazing. Again, no one's going to franchise that, go open a second one, go open a third one, and then let's talk franchise. I've done it 3 times with the same thing. Almost says everything works. Now people be interested, right? Because no one wants a business they have to recreate and fix and do all that. They want to walk in, buy it, hit the ground running, and make profit, right?
Mm. Now, you mentioned a few times your family, your kids. They are very, very important to you. And it sounds like you probably started teaching some of your kids the lessons of business from a very, very young age. I know lots of parents out there who are entrepreneurs struggle with the balance of when do I teach them? When do I get them involved? Is it too early? Is it too late? How much should I show them and all that kind of stuff? How do you balance that? Because it was interesting when you said, yeah, they're going to grow up to be very, very successful business people, but maybe not successful in this if you kept your same path, right? That's not something most people say. Most people say, no, they're probably going to have a nice life, but they're not going to be in business. But yours was the other way around. So
Right.
how did you raise your kids to have that balance?
Yeah, so I started them early. Okay, so they know business. They
Mhm.
hear business. I just got to give you a really good example. So one winter we have all the snow. We're in Wisconsin, right? So all this snow like out by the front porch is like 4 feet high, right? So my kids are making little snow caves. And they're little, they're like 4 or 5 years old. So they're making these little snow caves. So my one son, Augie, he makes one and he's inside it. I take a picture and he makes another one next to that. Right. And he climbs in that one. Then he goes to make a third one. I got this on video. I'm like, no, Augie, this is a great example. This is what I'm talking about. Now you can live in one, and what can you do with the other two? And he's like, oh, I could, have other. I go, right. You could rent it. Okay. He's like 5 at the time. Okay. He's 18 now, going to be 19 in like a couple weeks. Okay. Do you know what he's doing?
He's renting houses.
Real estate. What is he doing? He's going to be financially independent by the time he's 24. He's got all this, but he saw me in business. My kids came to my gym. My daughter would sit with my son and watch me sell memberships, watch me train people, watch me, hey, look at the play, look what I built here. And they're always exposed to it. It's when you separate, like I don't have daddy daughter work day or something. Like they live it.
Mhm.
And but here's a caveat. I never expect my children to do what I do, to come in my business, take over my business, unless like that's always a disaster, almost like 99% of the time, unless your business is so well run, like what we teach now, it's systemized. And they see that like dad has all kinds of freedom. Mom has freedom. We go on great vacations. We drive the car, we want a car. And it's like, and then he has this thing called a business and it makes all the money. They'll want to go into that business. Okay, because they know, but the people we have, you got to go there every day. Got to unlock the door. I got to call them on the phone when I'm with the kids because there's always a problem and someone's calling me. They want nothing to do with that business.
Mhm.
So don't put that burden on your children. This is just some free advice. If they want to do your business, they'll ask.
Mhm.
Okay, but if you're doing it right, the probability could be really good. I get it. You want a legacy, you want to hand it down to them. It's a great idea, but you can't give them a hot mess. Don't do that to your kids because all they're going to do is sell it.
Mhm.
Okay, they're going to get it for here. Go, I'm out, and they're just going to sell for pennies on the dollar and go do what they want to do. Right. So it's yeah. So that's how I do it. You really let them know that it's challenging and they see it and they live it in the family, but understand the reward far outweighs the risk. And they see it lived out.
So you have a real estate agent. What else do you have in your family now?
My other son is they're building apps. He does coding, and he does mobile cleaning, stuff like that. They've got that. My other son's in the Marine Corps, so he's doing that. He's doing great. What else do I have? Oh, my other son's he's just working. He'll figure it out. He's a hard working guy. He will only be able to work for himself though.
Mhm.
Okay, so I gotta tell him because he's kind of like I was at that age, 17, he's like 17, gonna be, yeah. And I'm like, he can operate any piece of equipment. He can do it. He's an unbelievable worker. Outwork anybody. I'm like, you take that. Now you save up, you buy a skid steer. You go start working for people. You start doing side jobs. You get a trailer. Use your truck, right? So I got him. He's putting all the pieces together. So he's going to go create his own business.
Mhm.
Like, and listen, he's got learning disabilities, but he still overcomes it, right? Like he struggles a lot of stuff, but if you can work, we talked about this earlier, right? People don't want to do it.
Yep.
He'll work. You're never going to go hungry.
Mhm.
And you can build a business. and then he's got me when it gets time to do real business, like when he starts to scale a little bit and he gets a second truck and bring people on, I'll be right there for him. It'll be awesome. So yeah, that's where they're at.
That's very, very cool. I still have this mental image of a 4-year-old telling all his friends, you have to rent this space because I just built it. This snow fort's not free. If you want to play here,
That's
it's five
right.
bucks.
Yeah, or give me some candy, whatever it takes. It's all the exchange.
Yes, whatever
It
the
was
currency is.
it was really neat. I think about that back about that all the time. It's just like it's what they see. You do tell them stuff too, but they also understand what I was doing, and that's what kids look at, and they're like entrepreneurship, like they know. And then we, of course, we homeschooled them and teach them how to be critical thinkers and everything else, and that just kind of gets everything in alignment, and they see what's out there,
Mhm.
and they all have regular jobs because I go, you have to do that. You don't get to just be your own boss. Go see what it's like. And they've worked at like Culver's and they've worked other fast food places or whatever. They worked on manufacturing now. They're doing that for a while. So they really get a taste of different businesses and how they operate so that they can make that transition and they have the experience of being on the team,
Mhm.
being, or as I like to say, sign in the back of the check until they get to sign the front of the check. Right. As a leader. So that's the big difference.
Awesome. And now I know you've helped a lot of people become successful. You coach them, you mentor them. Um, but I also know in order for you to be where you are, you've gotten some amazing advice, some great coaching from other individuals. Why do you keep on getting coached? And what is some of the biggest, most impactful advice that you've gotten from your mentors, your coaches?
Yeah. It's my first 20 years, I wouldn't take any help at all. Like and I had multi-billionaire clients telling me I should maybe think about doing this or that. What do you know, man? You don't build water features. You just own professional sports teams and manufacturing plants. And what do you know? I mean, that's the level of stupid I operated at, Fong, okay? In the first 20 years, but I wanted to do everything myself. It was all about me.
Mhm.
They were right about everything. They would have, if I would have just listened, I'd be still doing what I was doing, probably. Who knows? Or someone else would be doing it and I'd be making the money. So I think coaching, that's when I realized, wow, like these guys were all right. If I would have just listened. So how do you just listen? Then you start looking at sports. You have the top athletes in the world and they all have a coach and like 4 coaches.
Mhm.
They have like multiple coaches. They have specific coaches, for here's my massage guy and here's this guy and here's my breathing guy and here's my breathing coach. Here's my lifting coach. So I started really looking at that and going, yeah, I think I've just been stupid long enough. Like I need to find people who can help me with this. And then I was a really good trainer. It's like my gifting actually is in training people. So it's kind of weird, right? You think like I'm a really good trainer. I help like people who never thought they could be helped. But I'm not, I wasn't looking for a trainer,
Mhm.
So that was a paradigm shift for me. Who is it? And sometimes whether it's a mentor or an actual coach, they're going to give you we call them nuggets, right? They're going to say that one little thing that can change so much in how you see something. Like here's a great one I got years ago from a mentor. He said, and he got it from his mentor. See, so this is why it's important to share because there's probably nothing new under the sun, right? So he said, gross revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. And it's just, wow. He started thinking about it. He goes, you got to change your focus because a lot of guys use gross revenue as a scorecard.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm doing 100 million a year. Well, how much you taking home? Okay, I have a client, they're doing like 10 million a year. They're not taking home 100,000.
Right.
Something's broken.
Yeah.
Okay, that ain't worth it. But they're bragging about 10 million. So that little piece of advice shifted how I thought and made me reevaluate how I was training at the time and like move that way up on the priority list.
Mhm.
RNP, real net profit, not just profit, not pretend profit, not CPA profit. I'm talking real net profit, big pile of money. Everything's taken care of from taxes to payroll, my payroll, and I got a big pile of money left. That's real net profit.
Mhm.
It has nowhere to go. Now I get to decide where it goes. Everything else has been claimed. This has not been claimed. That's
Mhm.
my money. That's what I get to do with it, right? So something as simple as that can make such a huge difference.
Mhm.
Remember, outside eyes, Fong, are what we are as coaches. They see things we can't see. We are blind. We are emotional. we are into what we do. We love what we do. We want to succeed at all costs. You need someone to slap you around a little bit,
Mhm.
and get you back into reality and tell you, and they can tell you, like I can, specifically why this won't work. Do you understand where you're going if you do this? Jail. No, I'm kidding. But it's just you got to have someone who can be objective, brutally honest,
Mhm.
high accountability. That's what you get from a coach, and you can't, it's worth whatever you pay. It's worth it.
Mhm.
Totally worth it, because you're investing in yourself, which just you or your business.
Right.
No, I mean, so everything you learn can then spill over into your business,
Mhm.
and you can lead others in your business and teach them to create other leaders in the business, right? And so there's a great ripple effect from having great coaches.
Mhm. That is us. Totally agreed. And that's why one of the comments that sometimes I hear really, really bug me is that, oh, you have to think outside the box. I'm like, how the frick do you think outside of the box when the path, the instructions, and the directions are written on the outside of the box? I can't see it. So
Right.
therefore, I need to have that coach to be able to tell me, okay, this is what you
Mhm.
do. This is how
Right.
you should proceed. So thinking out it doesn't work. You can't think outside of the box.
It's I call it time compression. Okay. You want to compress time? You want to save a decade of costly mistakes, bad decisions, and maybe even failing? Get a coach. That's wisdom. If I've been doing this for 35 years, I probably know something you don't in year 3 of your business. Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. Like I see things, I've been there, I've dealt with clients, I've fixed all their messes, right? And every client I help, I continue to learn.
Mhm.
I get better. I can redirect. Okay. I can compress that 10 years down to 1. Who doesn't want that?
Right.
That's what coaching really gives you, time compression,
Mhm.
because otherwise you're just floundering in the dark. Let's be real. If you have something unique and you bring it to them, you have no idea what you're doing. You're
Mhm.
just bumping into stuff until something works. And that's okay. Part of that's part of the journey, right? But you can save a ton of money. Like I said, when I tell you be resourceful and not get resources, it's a harder way to work, but you're going to do it, and you're going to have something that's worth doing that you didn't spend a fortune of borrowed money for.
Mhm.
So you're going to reach profitability very, very quickly. And that's key, right? You can't keep trying the next loan. I'm almost there. And next thing you know, you're buried. And now
Right.
it's going to take you 5 years to get out of debt if you're lucky. So now you took the first 3 years, tack 5 years on it. You're 8 years in before you reach profitability. Who wants that?
Mhm.
Right. So get a coach.
Nicely said. Usually I end with, what's your last message? But I think that message is pretty strong.
Right.
Be
Right.
resourceful and like embrace the time compression. And one of the ways to do that is to find a coach. What's up for you? Because you do so many different things, and as you said, you like being challenged, you like being put in under pressure. What's the next pressurized thing that you're looking at?
So I have a movement we created to help 10,000 business owners create freedom, profit, and impact in their business. Now I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah. But I don't want to do it in 10 years. I want to do it in 5 years. That's some pressure. I could help 1,500 people a year. Okay. So let's try to do the numbers. It's a lot, but that's really what's on the forefront. And it's exciting. It's exciting to do. It's a hard drive. It's good. That's what I want to do, because when I help 10,000 business owners, you're like, okay, that's good. Well, the real number is, because what I do, freedom, profit, and impact in their business means they get the freedom, the margin in their lifetime to do the things they want to do, focus on the 5% of the business that only they can do. The profit is a result of all that once you systemize and everything else. The impact is what I'm really looking at, because not only do they make their people competent and in the system and they can function and succeed very well, they also make them better as people. And when they're better as people, they take that home to their families. And where are their families? They're in the communities. So instead of helping 10,000 people, I can affect millions of people by doing what we do. So that's why, like, some people would even say, and I'd go, is 10,000 enough? I was thinking, like, is it enough? I don't know. Am I thinking big enough? But then I started doing, okay, no, because it's really millions, right? Because I want to affect them, because I can change people's lives from the owner to their teams, to their families, right? And then the community. So that's the big goal, Fong. That's really my big vision, what I want to happen.
And then also it's multi-general, right?
Exactly.
It moves down from generation to
Yep.
generation, and
Yep.
that impact is amazing. So,
Yeah.
awesome, very very interesting stuff, and I'm sure you'll reach that and exceed that by far. Now, before I let you go and impact more people, I got five quick rapid fire questions for you. First thing
Give
that
it
comes
to
to
me.
mind. All right, so you're stranded on the desert island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence.
Pizza.
Nice choice. Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, Mr. Walsh, we love your story. Very, very inspirational, very, very motivational. Who would you cast to play you?"
And a younger Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, buddy, I got casted to play you. Let's hang out." What does that night look like to you?
Well, we're going to talk about Braveheart because it's like the greatest movie ever made. All right. So I'm just going to talk about some of that, get a little inside information on that. And that man's lived a pretty awesome life. I mean, I know a lot of great people, but um, from a Hollywood perspective, I don't put a ton of weight on it because they're Hollywood. But yeah, it's been an impressive, either him or Stallone, one or the other. I don't know.
Okay, so Mel Gibson's hungry, and you go, "Hey, buddy, no worries. Come back to my place. I'm gonna fix you a very, very special dinner." What's that special dish that you can make?
I will do a filet mignon in a Dijon reduction sauce. Okay, I'll put that in. We'll start with that.
Mhm.
And then I'll probably move into, I do a portobello mushroom in a thick teriyaki and I simmer that down so it just gets thick. It's salty, but you eat that large portobello, it's like eating meat. It's unbelievable. And then you balance it with a little bit of star fruit. Like you slice some star fruit and you have that with it. Incredible combination. So we'd probably play in those areas, maybe a few other things, but that will
Sounds
get
like
us
you've done
started.
those many, many times before.
I've
So
I've done it a couple times, but it's good.
you're driving in a car, long distance, many, many hours on end. For some reason, there's only one song that's stuck, and it plays on repeat for the full hours, 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 hours. What's that one song that you don't mind listening to, and you will never get sick of?
Ooh. I would do Samuel Barber's Adagio in G minor, Adagio for strengths in G minor. That is one of the greatest ever. I could listen to that. I've been listening to it for like 40 years, so I haven't got tired of it yet. So that could work. That could work.
Awesome. Give me a number from one to five.
Three.
One, two, three. So number three is a board game. So if you had
Oh,
to relate success to board games, how is success like board games?
how is it? Oh my goodness. Um, I don't play a lot of board games, but I used to play Monopoly. So if you do, I like Monopoly and because this lasted forever, but it's accumulation, it's assets. It really teaches people about assets, which I think is critically important because most people don't know the difference between a liability and asset. And it's you have an opportunity to win by accumulating, which I think is awesome, right? Being strategic. There's a lot you learn from that. So from a board game, that board game in particular, and I remember as a kid, whenever my older brother would lose, he'd flip the board. He's one of those guys because he's losing. He flips the board so no one gets
Natural
the win.
disaster.
That's right. So he's poof, you're done. You've been wiped out by a hurricane. Uh, but I really think those show, and I like those kind of board games where it's actually learning, not just playing. So, am I answering the question right?
It's well.
Okay.
So that's how success is like board games. Any final words from you? And also, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you? Whether it's your programs, your books, could get more advice from you and whatnot. What's the best way?
Sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. You can go there. There's a contact page. You can get all the information, everything you want to do. But I will do this. Let's give your listeners a gift. If they want Escape the Owner Prison, obviously go to Amazon and get that. But if you want the audio version, I will give it to you free if you go to sharpenthespiritcoaching.com, go to the contact page and send me a 1 sentence email. Okay. It says, Richard, I heard you on Fong's show. I'd love a free copy of your audio version. And poof, you'll have it.
Awesome.
Okay. And
Thank you very much.
want me to leave with one quote? I got a quote I think
Go
will
right
work.
ahead.
Let's top it off. This is the cherry. Dedication to a goal that never wavers. Resolution. This is the basic principle in the life of every truly great character. He who resolves upon any great and good end has, by that very resolution, clothed himself with power and is scaled to it. It's all about sticking with it, man. So whatever you're doing, if you're starting, stopping, we talked about it a lot, but stay in the game. If you're running the business, you're in year 5, 6, and it's fix it. If it's broken, fix it and stay in it. Like we need small business. You'll be way more thankful instead of working for the man. Okay. Stay on the path.
Nice then. Mic drop. Thank you very much. And for everybody, he's Richard. My name is Fong. Until next time, today is the day to lock your peak potential. We'll see you later.